I'm so pale. Hi! Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel, you know the drill. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my advice for college/university, whatever you want to call it. Community college if you're, I don't know what I'm saying. In Canada, it's college and university, not community college and college. That does not make sense. Anyways, advice for post-secondary. So, we're just gonna get right into it. I've got like 10 tips, but I'll probably go off on some tangents on some parts. But first, I'm just going to start by saying that when you go into college, ask questions. I say that because when I was going into university, I was very confused about everything. Even though I have older siblings, I feel like it's so different for everyone, especially if you go to different like schools than your siblings. It's just not the same. Asking questions about stuff like clubs that you can join, or your grades, or your profs, or really literally anything. There will be someone that can answer that question for you, whether that's someone that works with the school or not. For example, at least for my school, my program, I don't know. There's like Facebook groups, and it's like whatever your program name is, class of whatever your year is. So like I'm class of 2021. So when I got into university, I don't know how I knew about that Facebook group. Whatever, I found the group, I joined it, and it's very helpful because people are there to answer your questions. But you can reach out to your academic advisor, which is a person who helps you with your courses, your schedule, but you can reach out to them for a lot of things. Like if you have questions about some resources that are available, you can ask them and they'll direct you to whoever can help with that. Also, before we continue, I just wanted to say that a lot of this advice is obviously from personal experience, and every school is different, especially if you're not in like Ontario, because that's where I am. But yeah, so let's continue. This leads to my next point, which is join clubs. I say that because of a few things. They're good for your resume, they're good for experience, they're good for finding friends, they're good for a lot of things. My problem was that when I was in first year, I wanted to join clubs and I knew I wanted to do that. I wanted to participate, I wanted to get involved. I just didn't know how to. So for my program at least, I think it's during orientation week, or like the first couple days of orientation, I can't remember, but they have a bunch of the clubs that are like program related sit at these like booths, these tables to like, you know, to get you to join, which is really helpful and I enjoyed it. But I think my problem was I truly didn't get to know what these these clubs were. I was confused as to like what it was, if that makes sense. For example, a lot of programs at my school, I think most of them, I'm not sure how this works, but they have a course union. So it's like in high school when you have student council, it's the same thing, but just for your program, really? That's how I would describe it at least. That's a club that I joined in my third year, so my junior year. Is that how Americans say it? I don't know. Whatever. So I wanted to join clubs like that, but I had no clue like what the course union was, even though they had a table at this orientation. I think for me at least it was a little bit overwhelming because there were so many clubs lined up that I just felt like I wanted to join all of them, you know? So I think joining clubs is good. Just ask questions, message anyone you could find, do your research about what these clubs really are before you know, sign up for it or whatever. My next tip is that if you're going to try to get a job during your post-secondary experience, I recommend getting it with your school. So for my school, we have what's called Career Boost. I think it's different for every school, but in a nutshell, it's like a platform where jobs with the school will be posted, but you have to be eligible for Career Boost. Every school is different. You can do your research on what your school does, but you have to be eligible for Career Boost, and then through Career Boost will be job postings. So then you can cycle through those and find jobs that sound interesting to you. usually you would want to pick one that pertains to your program. So for example, something I would do was try to apply to be a graphic designer for the athletics department or run the social media account for a different department. So it doesn't have to be directly related to your program, but the job itself can be. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
I mean, it's always good to have a job outside of, your school. But having a job with your school is beneficial for a lot of reasons. Like I said, it can help you with your resume. You'll get some actual industry experience while you're in school. They're very forgiving with your hours. It's definitely not as many hours as if you were getting just a regular part-time job, but it's accommodating with your schedule because it's with the school, so that makes sense. I think there's rules for how many hours you can work in a week. I think my school is 10 to 12 hours a week. I could be wrong. This is just what I'm remembering off the top of my head. I think the most benefit you're gonna get out of getting a job is with your school. I don't even know what I'm saying, but I'm gonna move on before I talk for 5 hours. My next tip is to take advantage of the resources that your school offers. So my school, when you first get accepted and start school, they offer dental and clinic. I don't know what it's called. You know how you have or your parents maybe have benefits and you're on those benefits until you're a certain age or until you're done school or something like that. If you don't have that, they have resources where you can go to the dentist or go to the walk-in clinic or to the doctor and they'll pay for part of it. So similar to benefits, but not actually benefits. I personally opted out of them because I am a part of my parents' benefits, but if you're not, you have those resources available to you. At least Ryerson does, but they make it clear that that's what's available to you. Because when you opt out of it, if you do, like I did, you only have to opt out once, and it's when you first enter university. Some other resources that they have include writing help, resume, interview help. They have mental health resources. They have academic accommodation. I think that's what it's called. But what that is that let's say you have a learning disability, you can go to academic accommodation and they will help you sort out exam writing. For example, I think when you have academic accommodation and you're writing exams, you don't write them with everyone. I think it's at the same time as your class, but you get an extended amount of hours or time to write that exam, so that's why it's not in the same room. I don't use it, so I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I believe it has something to do with that. So if you do have a learning disability or anything of that nature, there's resources for it. You just have to look into it. There's probably so many resources at Ryerson that I don't know of because I've never looked them up. But if there's something that you're concerned about, your school can help you. So use it. Take advantage of it. My next tip is a little bit strange, but hear me out here. Ow. So this next tip is to learn to study. I know, you would think you would already know how to do that. Some people do. But when I was in high school personally, I legit did not study. I was that kid that got good grades and didn't try. I apologize. That's just how it worked. I mean, I obviously did my homework and everything, but studying, we don't know her. I didn't study for exams. I didn't study. I remember I would show up to an exam because the way mine worked in high school was there was an exam period. So classes would end and then there would be 4 days. Day 1 of exams would be your period 1 exam, etc. So it would go on until you were done. And if you didn't have an exam for that class, you didn't have to go to school that day. I would show up to school early because everyone did, and they would be sitting in front of the classroom with this huge pack of papers or a big fat notebook of their study notes, and I show up and I'm I have a pencil. So when I got to university, girl, I struggled. Luckily, the classes that you take in university or college are classes that you want to take because you chose the program. Of course, there's some courses that are mandatory that you might not like. For example, I had to take marketing and accounting. I did not like those classes. I thought marketing would be a creative thing, but at least my classes were not, and they were very difficult, and I had no idea how to study. Legit, not a clue. I still struggle with it a little bit because of the way I study, which leads me to my next point, which is work smarter, not harder. And what I mean by that is studying, for example, I find that I retain the most information by writing it down. I can't read and then just like know the information. That's not how my brain works. But what I still struggle with is that takes so much time that I feel like time is being wasted when I could use that time to still be retaining more information, if that makes sense. Like, I would sit there and rewrite all of my notes, and it would take so long that by the time I was done, some of the information that I had at the beginning was now gone from my brain. Do you know what I mean? But I still found that more helpful than just sitting there reading or sitting there and highlighting. Also, when you're taking notes in class, I don't know about every school, but a lot of my classes, the prof will post the lecture slides, like the PowerPoint, on to whatever you use online, for example, Blackboard, D2L, etc. So you don't have to write down everything that's on the board, which is what I used to do in high school. I would literally write notes and I would just write exactly what they had on the PowerPoints, but that's because they didn't post them anywhere. You didn't have that. So, work smarter, not harder by taking notes on stuff that you might think is important. Or sometimes the prof will even say, like, this stuff on the board right here is gonna be on the exam or whatever. I like to go somewhere that's not my bedroom to study because I get distracted so easily in my room that, like, for example, sitting here at this desk right now, when I'm doing work even, not like studying because I haven't done that in a long time, but when I'm like doing work, you see my bed right there, right? I could just get up and lay down. I barely even have to get up. I turn around and get out of the chair into my bed. And I have that problem a lot when I'm trying to study or do homework even, to the point where I started to do homework in my bed, which is not good because you're associating one area with two things: sleeping and relaxing, and studying and doing homework, which are two totally different things. So I suggest, even in general, just separating areas that you work in, or the areas that you chill in, or the areas that you hang out in, or the areas that you whatever. So I don't know about right now at schools, but if you're like moving to your school, like living on campus or anything, I think my school is still figuring out what buildings they're gonna have open. I don't know if I'm gonna end up going anywhere to do my homework or just figuring it out in my own space. We'll see how that works, but in a non-corona scenario, I would go to any building at my school that's open that has good vibes. Or on a weekend, maybe I would go to like a Starbucks or a different cafe. But I suggest separating your spaces as much as you can. Another thing I like to do when I'm studying or even doing homework is to do it with my friends, because as much as it can get distracting, it's still good because I could have information that someone doesn't and vice versa. So like writing down like, oh, I remember this in the lecture slides, but I don't have that, so I'm writing it down. Do you know what I mean? Another thing I've struggled with throughout my experience is creating a work-life balance, which I know some people don't like that term. I don't really either, but it's important to find balance in the schoolwork that you're doing, maybe the job that you have, your friends, your family. It's a lot to balance when you're in school, and some people do it a lot better than others. Like, some people have multiple jobs. I'm telling you right now, I cannot do that. I envy the people that do it, honestly. But I feel like for me, it varies. Like, at the beginning of the school year, I'm not focused on school. I'm focused on being with my friends again and, you know, all that jazz. Which, I'm not sure how that's gonna happen this year, but... Another tip I have is to get as close as you can to your profs. I'm lucky because my program's pretty small and I've got some younger profs. Old profs are totally fine too. I just think it's harder to relate to them on like a friendly level, so it's harder for me to like get closer to them. But getting close to your profs is great for multiple reasons. One, because they could be really cool people, because they are. 2, they could give you a reference after you graduate. 3, they could give you a job. 4, all the above. So yeah, I really recommend getting close and friendly with your profs. I mean, obviously not too friendly because you still need to keep it professional, but It's a really good way to network and get your foot in the door for something in the future. Let's talk about moving away to school. So, a lot of people like to move away to school, me included, because of the whole thing I said before about like separating your spaces. It's the same for me. Like being at home, I'm so unproductive when it comes to school that like being away, I associate Toronto with school, like I said in one of my last videos. So that's one reason I like to be away from school. Some people don't want to move away to school, and that's totally fine too. 2 of my siblings went to the school that's in my hometown. They didn't move away. Some people commute to school. Ryerson is a perfect example of that because it's considered a commuter school because it's downtown, like it's literally right in the downtown core of Toronto. So just by assumption, I'm pretty sure majority of the students that go to Ryerson are commuters. And I commuted for a semester. I personally despised it because it took a lot of time out of my day, and some people don't mind that, but I did. But I find that I really valued time spent with my friends, and I still value that, and I value the college experience because my high school experience wasn't great, so I was trying to make up for it in my university experience. I personally just didn't want to regret not moving away. Long story long, I recommend moving away to school for multiple reasons, but if financially that doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean you can't have a college or university experience. As cheesy as it sounds, it's what you make it out to be. Which leads me to my next point. It's not necessarily academic related, but parties. Ryerson is not a party school, I'll tell you that for free. So if you want to go to Ryerson to party, you are picking the wrong school. I don't recommend picking schools based on the party life, but I'm sure people do it. If there are parties at your school, don't feel obligated to go because you feel like you're gonna miss out. But if you want to go for it. It's none of my business what you do with your free time. If you party, good for you. If you don't, good for you. Partying is not my favorite thing, but I was excited to turn 19 so I didn't have to go to parties anymore. I could go to the bar or the club. It's a lot easier anyways, but like, for example, in first year we used to go to frat parties. By we, I mean me and my friends would go to frat parties, and Ryerson didn't even have frats. We were going to the U of T frats. And some of them wouldn't let us in because we didn't go to U of T. So we would like Uber across, okay, I'm being dramatic. We didn't go like all the way across Toronto, but we would Uber pretty far and then get to the door and they're like, we need proof that you go to U of T. And we're like, all I'll say to sum it up is if you don't go to parties, you're not missing out on anything. Really. If I'm gonna go out, I would much rather go to a bar or a club. But again, I don't do that often either, but everybody's different, so do what you want. Literally do what you want. Segueing into my next point, I would recommend doing everything and anything you want / are able to do while you can. What I mean by that is you don't want to graduate university or college regretting not doing anything. So that's kind of associated with the whole work-life balance. And again, I understand that financially it doesn't work with everyone. Trust me, I feel that. But whatever you want to do that you are capable of doing, do it. As corny as it sounds, like when people say high school is supposed to be the best 4 years of your life, I had to make up for it in university. And as much as there are times that I regret, like maybe not going out that one time or, you know, whatever, I've still been having a lot of a better time than I did in high school. A lot of the high school teachers also like to scare you into thinking university and college are the scariest things ever. They're really not. They're honestly, in my opinion, better than high school. So that's something to look forward to. I'm gonna give some quick fire points. Don't waste your money at the bookstore. Go somewhere else like the dollar store. Maybe buy a couple of your school shirts or sweaters just for memory purposes. Don't worry so much. I can't think of anything else. But my last point is to have fun. I understand that university and college can be intimidating because it is one step closer to stepping out into the workforce, if that's how you want to call it, but live in the moment. Again, as cheesy as it sounds, you gotta live in the moment and do what you think is best for you. And I'm so glad that I did what I think is best for myself, as much as there can be stuff like financial situations that can hinder the way that you experience school. And I get that. I am in the same boat. But in the long run, I would regret not moving away to school, or not going out for dinner with my friends, or not going to that concert, you know? So I feel like no matter what you do, you are making the right decision. There's so many factors that play into going into college and university, but don't be afraid to do what your gut is telling you to do. For example, if you want to change your program, do it. If you want to drop out of school, do it. School will always be there. You can go back anytime you want. It's really not that big of a deal, you know? To sum up all of my points, do what you want. Go into the program that you want. Switch programs, drop out, don't go in the first place. Literally does not matter. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Because you will figure it out. And that is something I also have to tell myself, because I'm horrible at overthinking. I've always thought about, like, am I in the right program? Am I doing the right thing? Etc., etc. Whatever you do is the right thing. So you could, after university, you could go to college, you could go do a master's, you could not. You could take a year off before you start working. You could do
whatever you want.
That was kind of good. I think that's all the tips that I have. I really don't know if there's anything I missed. I mean, obviously there's tons of stuff that I missed. So if I did miss anything, leave it in a comment. Maybe you have advice or any questions that I could answer about college or university, or not about college or university. If you enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified every time I post. And yeah, my posture, oh my god. Well, anyways, I will see you in the next one. Bye. Yay, peace out.
Bye.
This is